Ruggs. Ruggs has got it. Touchdown. Jackpot, baby. Vegas touchdown.
You know, our guys work way too hard to go through the so.
Dumb and dumber. That was the dumbest crap I've ever seen. I don't know what else to say.
You know, with 7 seconds left, I couldn't believe they all out blitzed us. But as soon as I saw it, man, I was thankful.
We just played the call that the coaches called, and you know, and we just got to execute. But you got to help us out at the same time, just being a better call at that spot.
Jets fans were kind of rooting against their team because they really want to see them have the worst record, get the number 1 pick, and draft Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson, which is kind of bizarre.
Not really bizarre, not in today's NFL, when fans have figured out that if you're not going to make the playoffs, who cares? And if it gets you in position to get a franchise quarterback, and your franchise hasn't had one since Joe Namath, go for it. Don't celebrate the victory. Celebrate the path to the guy that will lead to many victories if he ends up
Are you surprised, though, that, like, it's just like, hey, the hell was Sam Darnold? I mean, you know, don't they look at it and go, wait, we were having these same thoughts a few years ago, and we thought Sam Darnold was the savior. Maybe we just build a team this time around, and maybe we can win with Sam Darnold. I don't know. I'm shocked at just Sam Darnold didn't bring us the playoffs. It hasn't been good. We're going to cut the cord, get the hell out of here, Trevor Lawrence. I'm shocked by that a little bit.
Here's why you shouldn't be. Because Sam Darnold is trying to get his footing at a time when we see Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield. Recently,
I know, but they have all-star offenses around them. That's not fair.
I understand that, but you don't have 5 years to figure it out anymore in the NFL, and it's easier to throw overboard a guy who hasn't been able to show us anything. You know, I think the seeing ghosts moment probably was when he got off of the idea that he's going to be a franchise quarterback, but regardless, he's the quarterback for now.
Yep.
And maybe they'll keep him around for next year under his first round rookie contract that has a manageable salary for 2021. They won't be keeping around Gregg Williams. Not that he was going to be there anyway, but yesterday, and there were a lot of people. We weren't the only ones that were advocating that they should fire him right now. But after we finished the show yesterday, I went downstairs and I sat in my office and I said, I don't do this very often, but I'm going to write something saying the Jets need to fire this guy right now because it was the only play. It's the only play. If you want to avoid going 0-16, you have to get Gregg Williams out of there because you've lost the defense.
Yes,
the quotes from Marcus May made it clear to me he's lost the defense. They're not going to listen to this guy. He's going to be a negative presence, even more negative than he's already been for the rest of the year. He's not going to help you get to where you want to be, which is avoid 0-16. And Chris, see, here's the thing. Gregg Williams doesn't care if the team goes 0-16.
No, he doesn't.
I had forgotten that he was the defensive coordinator of the Browns that were 0-16. I thought he came the next year. He was there for 0-16. It doesn't attach to the defensive coordinator. It attaches to the head coach. So, I think Gase may have been tempted to say, you're staying with me. You're suffering through this too. But it's not going to stick to Gregg Williams. So Gase made the only move. Get this guy out of here now if we want to have any chance of turning this around. Because the longer I keep this guy, the more the guys in the locker room who are looking funny at him are going to look funny at me, thinking, why in the hell are you keeping this guy around after what he did to take away our shot to avoid the embarrassment of being on an 0-16 team?
Yeah, that's it, Mike. That's why they can't keep him around. He will cause total organizational dysfunction. He's going to ruin everybody's thought of anything every time they see him in the hallway, in a meeting room, whatever it is. And then they're also going to wonder, is his ego going to get the best of him the next time we're in a situation like this? Again, I don't know what it was. I don't even understand the rationale thought of Gregg Williams doing that. I really don't. The only thing I can come to is the fact that he just wanted to stick it to John Gruden and made it personal that way. I'm going to hit your quarterback and blitz you one more time and embarrass your offensive system one more time. And if that's the case, that's a fireable offense. That's holding yourself and your personal vendettas and competition over everything else. And that's what's crazy about coaches. Because, coaches, of course, will preach team. And then you get a coach that's like that where it just, he's saying team, but it's always I. And I think players see that, and he has a reputation around the NFL as that anyways. So I think that's why they had to get it done, because if they do want to get one win or maybe two or something like that, they just need to get a guy that's going to leave a bad taste in their mouths out of the building.
Given Gregg Williams' history from the involvement in the bounty programs, now I say that with full acknowledgement that he was hardly the only coach
definitely
or team that was supplementing with small cash prizes relative to the regular salary that players receive, the application of clean legal hits that potentially rendered their opponents incapacitated. I'm not going to act like he's the only one who was doing it, and that was one of the problems with the way the NFL handled the bounty scandal. But Gregg Williams was as over-the-top cartoonish as any coach in the past 20 years has been. The audio from the Steve Gleason documentary, Sean Pamphilon, remember that name, from the pantheon of people who just kind of popped up and then were gone? He had that audio of Gregg Williams the night before the Saints 49ers epic divisional game from the 2011 season, where Williams is ranting and raving about kill the head and the body will die, attack the head, go after Frank Gore's head, go after this guy, test this guy. I can't help but wonder whether he set aside the desire to win and gave in to the desire to just take one more shot at Derek Carr.
Yeah, right.
Let's go get – I don't like that punk. Let's go get him. Let's send 8 guys after him. We got one more shot at that little so-and-so, such-and-such, profanity deleted. Let's just go get him. I can't help but wonder whether or not that was the motivation, Chris.
I hear you, Mike. I don't think that's totally crazy. I don't. I think it plays hand in hand with, the thought of John Gruden, too. Like I said yesterday, I think there's a real...
Let's screw up their season. Let's go...
Right.
I'm not saying this is appropriate.
But let's beat the crap out of them one more time.
The evidence is there. From everything we know about Gregg Williams, the evidence is there. We're searching for a rational explanation for why he would do something so crazy. And I was flooded yesterday with this theory that it was all part of a broader organizational tanking play. You're down 11 points.
Yeah, they
not
could have
long
done.
Before
you're
this.
Right.
You didn't have to do it this way. And if you were competent enough to pull this off, you would have otherwise won a game by now. This was, I believe, Gregg Williams giving in to that bloodlust that has characterized his career. He wanted to send his guys after Derek Carr, and maybe, just maybe, through a clean legal hit, he would, hey, it's football. Derek Carr, oh, what a shame. Your quarterback can't play next week, and you lose, and you don't make it to the playoffs. Sorry, John Gruden. Based on the history of Gregg Williams, it's not ridiculous to think that that's the explanation, and that's the only explanation that makes sense for what we saw.
I mean, it does make sense. I don't ever want to just blame anybody for trying to hurt somebody or do anything.
But he's shown us.
How
many times have we heard for the last 4 years? Someone has shown us who he is.
Yes.
Right? This guy has shown us for a decade who he is. We can't ignore it now.
No, I understand that. You're right. I don't think, we're far off. I really don't. Because there's nothing really other logical to explain to me other than, did he want to stick it to Adam Gase and not let Adam Gase have a one win? I mean, that's to me, it's like one or the other. I don't know. And I really... Listen, I watched, some talk shows and things yesterday just to think, let me hear some people in the know. Maybe somebody knows, maybe there's a thought here. Nobody has a thought. There's nothing logical that makes sense. And, of course, the way Adam Gase answered it after the game and everything, I mean, obviously he didn't think it made sense either. And, I don't know. To me, it's a tough one. I know Adam Gase said, too, it's been talked about or we practice it or whatever that, I don't know if I buy that either, because I don't think Adam Gase wants to make it look like some coach went rogue on me and just called whatever he wanted, and we've never practiced that or done that. That's not a good look either. He put everybody in a tough spot. It was ridiculous. I understand it. They got 4 tough games coming up. They're trying to salvage from going for 0-16. I mean, they are. And I just think getting him out of the building was one of the best things they had to do if they want to get that one win.
Only thing they could do. Here's Adam Gase from yesterday explaining the decision to abruptly fire Gregg Williams with 4 games left.
Did you agree with his decision last night on the blitz call at the end of the game, and how much that call factored into your decision?
So I obviously wasn't happy about that call. And, that was a heartbreaking way for our guys to lose the game. So for that to happen in that situation, it's just we can't have that happen.
Yeah, look, he had to do what he had to do. And Shereen Williams and I were talking about this last night on PFTPM. One of the problems that you get into when you are a coach who became a head coach because you developed an expertise in one side of the ball, and you hire a coordinator for the other side of the ball, and you give him the keys. Gase did it with Williams. Mike Zimmer does it with his offensive coordinator. Plenty of coaches do that, where they surrender, they abdicate. They don't delegate, they abdicate half of the game to an assistant coach.
Yeah.
When you do that, as Gase did with Gregg Williams, what can you really do in one of those moments where you're thinking, what the hell is he doing now? What can you really do then? Once you have surrendered that responsibility and backed off and focused on your side of the ball, the Sean McVay sitting on the Gatorade cooler, mapping out his plans for the next drive on offense while Wade Phillips runs the team. When you do that, you necessarily assume all risks associated with it, Chris, that the person to whom you've delegated that side of the ball is going to do something crazy. And when it's time for you to intervene, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I think that's one of the reasons why Gase was flat-footed and handcuffed.
Right.
What's he going to do? He's given the keys to Gregg Williams.
You're right. It's a tough spot. It is. It's the way that they design their, structure of power there. And a lot of teams do that. It's not to say that's wrong or anything like that. But, I guess that's where you have to go into. You have to know the guy. You have to know the guy. You got to make sure you're really paying attention to the call late in the football game to make sure. They did have one timeout left, and sitting here as a Tuesday morning quarterback, could Adam Gase maybe heard that call a timeout and go like, wait, hold on. Let's make sure we're all on the same page here and talk about how we're going to defend this and do that. That would be about the only avenue he would have there, because you're right. Other than that, it's a tough spot. And he just went rogue. I don't know any other way to say it. It's totally inexplicable. It's ridiculous. It's crazy from every asset. That corner matched up with Henry Ruggs. Like you said, like you said yesterday, and you're so right. He had a bite on the double move. If Henry Ruggs catches a slant, he's going to score a touchdown. So he's got to respect that too. So that just from everything, there's no way to make logic out of it. There's not a matchup or anything you can look at to think, oh, okay, I get it. That makes sense. No, it doesn't.
No, it absolutely doesn't. None of it makes sense. And the only thing that makes sense, and again, I don't make this accusation lightly, but the evidence has been there for the past decade. That's who Gregg Williams is. That's who you're hiring when you hire him. And at 62, he's had a full career in the NFL. If anyone hires him now, it will be beyond incomprehensible. For the past few jobs, I just thought, well, hey, apparently this guy is one of the best defensive tacticians we've ever seen. He's got it all figured out. That's how he keeps getting employed. I thought he was done, frankly, Chris, when during the bounty scandal, he submitted an affidavit in which he said that Jonathan Vilma, former Saints linebacker, originally drafted by the Jets, by the way, that Vilma had indeed offered $10,000 to anyone who incapacitated Brett Favre in the 2009 NFC Championship game. I thought at that moment he would never be accepted again in a locker room. And I don't know whether players 3 or 4 years removed from that just, no one really clued them into it. They weren't following those kinds of granular
Vilma
details.
Was going out of the career was over.
If you ever explain to a player what this guy did, then maybe they'd say, well, what the hell? I'm not playing for this guy. But it never really had the occasion to percolate. So I thought he was done then. I clearly think he's got to be. I'm sorry. It's done. It's done. And I don't call for someone to be fired lightly either. But those circumstances and everything we know about the guy, it all came to a head. And the Jets went ahead and did it, and I think they were going to do it regardless of whether anyone outside the building was saying that they should. It was the only thing they could do.
Yeah, I think so. It was the only thing you could do. And, what done, It's a good question. I mean, he has been a good defensive coach for a long time. I have a hard time thinking that, he'll be hired as a defensive coordinator somewhere. I do, because that now when you have something like this, right, even if there was a coach who was going to be a head coach next year, is trying to line up his staff and do those things, you're not going to be able to sell to the owner of the fan base, Gregg Williams, anymore. So if there was any thought of like, hey, he's going to join a new coaching staff somewhere, that's going to be a hard sell. I don't think that happens, and I think you're right. I think he's probably done as far as defensive coordinator unless some unforeseen circumstance has. I think he has to go somewhere and be a defensive assistant, assistant to the head coach, something like that. And then maybe if he got somewhere where the defensive coordinator got fired during the season, then he would take over. But I'd have a hard time thinking he got hired, for a fresh new start in that position.
I think his best bet at this point is to wait for the next reconstitution of the XFL, which is coming in 2022.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.